So I'm gonna be doing a bit of a breakdown on the bootleg SNES, or not SNES, Nintendo Entertainment System Mini I got. It's a fairly cheap piece of shit. You know, nothing surprising from that. Bought this full knowing what it was. You know, fake lid, fake everything. I guess using real plastic. So it was brought up that these ports here might be serial, and that if I plug them into the computer, if I ever get the parts to do that, I might be able to get a terminal. But I want to point out that that's not what's going on here. So a bit of a electronics lesson. So square pin is always pin 1 on a motherboard or chip or whatever. So you notice here that this pin on the left is actually square, and this is the power button because you can see that this is incoming power. As you can see, it leads into the power port of a USB, and if you know your USB, the left and right ones are in and out with the power. Then we can follow along this cable, and it leads to another square pin right there. So that's power, and I'm not gonna bother tracing this out for you, but it leads to this square pin. You notice in a pattern here, which then leads into, let me see here, this square pin back here. Let me see if we can get that in the camera. Right there, you see that one's square. And it leads into this massive pad where it's waiting, and here's the power source. This is this front one on the right, simple toggle button switch. So it's just a simple bridge connector. So it bridges these two pads right here. You can see there's a divider between them, so when it's on, it's bridged. And this leads into the serial ports here. So there's these two pins that are dedicated to let me adjust the focus there. These two pins on the left and right controller. This one's actually player 1, and when I first looked at this, I thought this bridge connector was what it identified player 1, but you've noticed that both have the same style of input. So I'm assuming it goes in, and this is what powers it. I then have actually disassembled one of the controllers. It's nothing more than a copy of the Nintendo controller. You know, nothing complicated. I've already got the other one disassembled, but I don't want to flip it over because I don't want to lose all the rubber pieces. But these ones here, so I'm guessing, I'm not sure what's underneath this black blob here, but these are just on-off signals. Nothing complicated. This isn't meant to send a digital signal. I'm guessing this might be underneath here might be some sort of probably resistor, probably just a series of resistors to make it really simple. And since they're so close to each other, they might be prone to overheating, and so that's just to help absorb the thermal heat. So you noticed pin 1 on these. They don't look like it has a designated pin 1, so I'm guessing. No, this might actually just be a way to route power into every single one of these, and then it leads into separate connections. So that's not a out separator, that's an in separator. So I'm guessing on the left, this track goes in, boom, splits it all up evenly, and then so it goes in, splits it all up, and then it sends it on one of these 4 pins. And I'm guessing it has some sort of IC inside of it, because the number of out pins does not have the same count as number of possible combinations in it. So we have the up, down, left, right, select, start, and this is actually interesting. It actually has the interface for a 4-pad layout instead of the 2-pad layout. So I'm guessing this is just a recycle from maybe a bootlegged Super Nintendo Some pretty shoddy work wiring is out. These wires are way too far out. It's still got flux on it. I want to point out some other other soldering mistakes. There's actually still flux on the main power. So this is the power unit. This just takes USB power and pumps it in. There's actually a capacitor underneath, which I'm guessing is what's eliminating it from frying the whole entire thing. But there's definitely still flux left on this orange stuff. That's not copper. That's yeah, I can scratch that off. That's flux. That's actually acidic. So if there was enough of this stuff left on it, it can actually potentially eat through it and render this thing useless. Not irreparable, but definitely if some poor kid were to get it some Christmas morning and use it a lot, not that they wouldn't know quality of it, bit them like a rattlesnake. But it would definitely eat through it and make it so it wouldn't operate properly. But that pin there actually leads to the AV out, which is actually through a 3mm headphone jack. I've got the cables to the side right now, but they're not anything special. So under here, this is the NOAC, the Nintendo on a chip. I'm actually not sure what this is. Something's meant to be mounted here. I'm gonna change the focus. Something's meant to be mounted here, because these pads don't lead to anything, and the mounted ROM chip is sitting over it, and you don't put chips on top of chips. That's just asking for trouble. I'm guessing is that it's probably maybe something, a different type of controller maybe. The oscillator crystal definitely leads into it. Maybe this is maybe this could be like the Super FX chip, maybe some sort of mod chip, I'm not sure. Oscillator crystal here runs at 21.4 frames per second. I could probably easily replace it because these are easily removable. Through the board mounts are actually pretty simple. This is actually the ROM chip. I've actually did a bit of Googling. I'm wondering if I could find one of these with an SD card reader, so I can actually put on like official ROMs and stuff on it. There's a giant ass solder blob right here, so more shitty solder technique. This is it's missing a U1 chip here, so some sort of 8-pin chip. Instead, it's got a resistor there. So I'm guessing this might be not just a Nintendo on a chip, but a SNES on a chip, which is they kind of do the same thing. And this and in a different configuration, it might do it. That's just purely speculation, though, so don't quote me on that. Some missing diodes. So the thing runs, so obviously they're not needed. Some missing resistors. That kind of makes me wonder what else this board is used for, other than just Nintendo games. Maybe it was because Nintendo NOACs were very popular with plug-and-play games, so maybe these are like different configurations for different types of plug-and-play games. I've Googled this serial number here, the AAA-006-V10. I didn't get any results on it. Not a whole lot else I can really show about this. There's a resistor there. I forget my color coding right now, but I could definitely say for sure that's not a whole lot of resistance in there. Probably leads into the LED there. I would love to actually get this taken out, but I don't think I have the solder equipment to actually remove those, because if it was, I'm not sure if the camera can pick this up, but there's half cylinders here, and then there's cylinders just above them that got solder in them, so it's kind of double soldered to the pad. And there's a few edge connections there, and getting solder from underneath a mounted chip is actually kind of pretty difficult, and I didn't get to do that a whole lot while I was a solder tech. But I guess I kind of didn't really explain a whole lot how this can't be a proper serial interface, other than you just know that a Nintendo didn't use this. They actually used a SCSI cable from the cartridge to test it. I think what I was originally going on is that most of these tracks are just, none of them are used for digital signal. It's purely, well, an on-off is a digital signal, but not like for sending serial information, because this board for the controller is just it's just bridging a connection with it. These are just very common rubber pads that are used all the time. Yeah, as far as I know in my capabilities, the most realistic thing I could probably do is replace the oscillator chip to something of a higher frame rate, assuming that I can find the figure out the specs of this and get one that's within the required range, so I don't end up frying anything. Maybe I can possibly, I read that the ROM chip can be flashed with a Raspberry Pi, but you know, I'm not spending $100 just so I can have a knockoff Nintendo play games when I've already got several emulators across my devices, you know. But you know, just that's me exploring my little bootleg piece of shit.